My roommate left her door open 6 nights. On the 7th, she came wearing only my shirt. The first time my roommate left her bedroom door open at night, I thought it was an accident. The second time, I noticed it. By the third night, I started wondering if she was trying to tell me something. But on the 7th night, when she appeared in my doorway wearing nothing but one of my oversized shirts, I realized I had completely misunderstood the message. My name is Ryan, and 6 months ago, I moved into a small apartment with a woman named Emma. We weren't dating. We weren't childhood friends. We were simply two strangers who needed a roommate. At least, that's what I thought. Emma was friendly from the beginning, but she had one strange rule. She liked privacy. Her bedroom door was almost always closed. If she was sleeping, closed. If she was changing, closed. Even when she was watching television in her room, she usually kept it shut. So when I walked past her room one Tuesday night and noticed her door standing slightly open, I immediately assumed she'd forgotten. I didn't think much of it. I just went to my room. The next morning, I found her in the kitchen making coffee. "Hey," she said. "Morning." She smiled. Then she asked, "Did you sleep well?" "Why?" "No reason." She took a sip of coffee and walked away. I watched her for a second. Something about that smile felt unusual, but I ignored it. The next night her door was open again. This time it wasn't slightly open. It was wide open. The hallway light spilled into her room, and I could hear quiet music playing. I stopped outside my own bedroom. "Emma?" The music stopped. "Yeah, your door's open." There was a pause. "I know." I waited. Then she added almost casually, "You can leave it." I smiled awkwardly. Okay. I went into my room. But that night I couldn't stop thinking about it. Why would she deliberately leave it open? Maybe she wanted me to talk to her. Maybe she was lonely. Or maybe I was imagining things. The third night it happened again. And this time when I walked past, Emma was sitting on her bed reading. She looked up. Our eyes met. Neither of us said anything. Then she smiled. Not a big smile. Just a tiny one. Behind me, I heard her laugh softly. That was when I started becoming suspicious. The fourth night, I came home late. The apartment was dark, except for the light coming from Emma's room. Her door was open. I stood there for a moment. "You're still awake?" I asked. She looked toward me. "Couldn't sleep." "Everything okay?" "Everything's fine." Then she looked at me for a few seconds before saying, "Good night, Ryan." "Good night." I walked into my room. But before I closed my door, I glanced back. She was still looking at me. The fifth night was different. I was sitting on the couch watching television when Emma walked out of her room. She had her hair tied up and was wearing comfortable clothes. She sat beside me, not on the other end of the couch, beside me. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Nothing." "You've been acting strange." She laughed. "Strange?" "Yeah." "How?" I thought about it. "Your door." Her expression changed. "What about it?" "You've been leaving it open every night." She stared at me. Then she smiled. "Maybe I just like having it open." "Since when?" "Since recently." I shook my head. "You're weird." She laughed. "Maybe." Then she leaned back against the couch. For a few minutes, neither of us said anything. But somehow the silence didn't feel uncomfortable. It felt different. Like there was something both of us wanted to say, but neither wanted to be the first. Finally, Emma looked at me. "Ryan?" "Yeah?" "Have you ever wondered if two people can live together for months without realizing how close they've become?" I looked at her. "That's a very specific question." She smiled. "Maybe. Are you talking about us?" She didn't answer. Instead, she stood up. "Good night." Then she walked toward her room. Before going inside, she turned around. Her door stayed open. The sixth night was the night I finally decided to ask her. I was in the kitchen getting water when she walked past me. Emma. She stopped. Can I ask you something? Why do you keep leaving your door open? She stared at me. For the first time, she didn't smile. Instead, she looked nervous. I don't know. You do know. She looked down. Then she said quietly, maybe I was hoping you'd ask. My heart skipped. Ask what? She looked at me. I don't know how to say it. Try. She took a breath. Never mind. Then she walked away. I stood there completely confused. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the conversation. Maybe she had feelings for me. Maybe she was just lonely. Maybe I had read everything wrong. The next day, I decided to give her space. I didn't bring it up again. I thought that would make things easier. It didn't, because that evening, Emma didn't leave her door open. For the first time in 6 nights, it was completely closed. And somehow, that bothered me more than I expected. I went to bed early. Around midnight, I heard a quiet knock on my door. I sat up, opened the door. And that's when I completely forgot what I was going to say. She was standing there wearing one of my oversized white shirts. Nothing about the moment was explicit, but it was unexpected enough to make me speechless. She held the sleeves with her hands, almost nervously. Before you say anything, she said, I borrowed this. I looked at the shirt. That's definitely mine. I know. Why are you wearing it? She smiled. Because I wanted to. I laughed nervously. She stepped closer. Then she looked directly into my eyes. Do you remember what I asked you yesterday? About becoming close? She nodded. I wasn't talking about roommates. The room became completely silent. She continued. I've been trying to tell you something for 6 nights. By leaving your door open? She smiled. I thought you were smarter than that. I laughed. I thought you forgot to close it. She covered her face for a second. 6 nights? 6 nights. She shook her head. I can't believe you. We both laughed. Then her expression became serious. I didn't know how you'd react. To what? She looked at me. To me telling you that I like you. I didn't answer immediately. Not because I didn't feel the same. Because I had spent 6 nights convincing myself that I was imagining everything. Finally, I smiled. You could have just told me. I was scared. Of me? No. She looked down. Of losing what we already have. Because suddenly, I understood. She wasn't trying to create a moment. She was trying to protect herself from rejection. I stepped back slightly and said, Emma, you don't have to be afraid of losing me. She looked up. Really? Really? Her eyes softened. Then what happens now? I smiled. Now you've stopped leaving your door open as a secret message. She laughed. Why? Because next time, just knock on my door. She smiled. Like this? She raised her hand and gently knocked on the open door. I laughed. Exactly. She stayed there for a moment. Then she said, Ryan? Yeah? Can I stay here for a little while? I nodded. Of course. She walked inside and sat on the edge of my bed. We talked for hours. About everything. How she had noticed me the first month we lived together. How she started looking forward to hearing my keys in the front door. How she would sometimes make extra coffee just because she knew I'd want some. And how those 6 open doors weren't really about the doors at all. Invitations. Small, uncertain invitations. Waiting for me to notice. By sunrise we were still talking. Nothing dramatic happened. No grand movie scene. Just 2 people sitting in a quiet room, finally saying the things they'd been too nervous to say. A week later, something changed in our apartment. Emma's bedroom door was still open sometimes. But now, I understood why. And whenever she wanted to talk, she didn't leave mysterious clues anymore. She simply came to my door. One evening, she stood there wearing a completely normal outfit, holding 2 cups of coffee. She smiled. Want one? I took the cup. Sure. Then she leaned against the doorway. Ryan? Yeah? You know what I realized? What? She smiled. 7 nights was a lot of effort. I laughed. 6 nights. She raised an eyebrow. The 7th doesn't count. Why not? Because on the 7th, I finally told you. And what did you learn? She looked at me. That sometimes the person you're waiting for isn't waiting for you to make a move. They're just waiting for you to notice they've already opened the door. And that was the night I finally understood something. Sometimes love doesn't arrive with a confession. Sometimes it arrives quietly. A door left open. A look held a little too long. A cup of coffee made for 2. And sometimes all it takes is one person being brave enough to knock.